Hi everyone, thank you again for tuning in. Welcome to the 7th episode of the ICT Visa Frequently Asked Questions. In this video, I will be talking about all of the different document requirements in detail for a successful ICT Visa application. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first important form is the work permit application for someone who's applying from outside of Canada, and the form number is IMM 1295. The second is the invitation letter. Now, this invitation letter is sent out by the Canadian organization that is getting the ICT employee to come and work for that entity. So you will have information like the person who's responsible for getting this ICT employee to come over. So their full name, their title, business contact information. So you have to also talk about a brief summary of the reason for the invitation. So include details of the business itself, the full names of the employee of your company who is being invited, the intended duration and a detailed itinerary of the visit, and also a statement specifying who will be responsible for all travel-related expenses. Now talking about the evidence of company relationship. Now I did talk about this in one of my previous videos where I said the Canadian entity and the foreign company, they must be legal entities and they should have a relationship. Now the relationship should be a parent relationship or a subsidiary branch or an affiliate relationship. Now there are a lot of different ways we can actually prove this relationship between the parent organization in the home country and also the entity in Canada. And we can talk about that in detail when we are going through the application. Now the fourth most important document would be the employment reference letter. Now, this is a letter that you should get from your current or past employers. Now, if you've had more than 2 employers in the last 2 years, you should provide a letter from each of those employers. Okay, reference letters must always be written on a company letterhead. It should show the company's full address, telephone number, fax numbers, and must be stamped with the company's official seal. So what kind of goes into this reference letter? It should have information such as how long you've been with the company, what were your main responsibilities, your annual salary, the business card of the person signing, and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of information that goes on the employment reference letter. Now, the next is the offer of employment. The offer of employment is from the Canadian organization. So it is really an offer that states how long you will be employed in the Canadian organization, what your responsibilities will be to a certain extent. And it should also really talk about it should also be written in the company's letterhead. So it should have the company's address, telephone number, and email address. Now, this is the IMM 5802 form. Now, this is different from the employment contract, which we will talk about next. Now, the employment contract basically states the different duties and responsibilities of the, offer of employment itself. So the offer of employment is just like a one-page document that states this is going to be the start date, this is going to be the end date, this is what's going to be your salary, and it's all printed on the letterhead of the company. Okay, now the employment contract states in detail exactly what the roles and responsibilities are going to be. If there is anything, duties of each of the job that they'll be doing, the hours that they'll be working, more information about wages, about commissions, if anything, accommodation arrangements, if there is going to be any holiday and sick leave entitlement. So it really goes into the details and the specific of the exact offer of employment. So it always sort of goes hand in hand. You've got the offer of employment and you also have the employment contract that details everything out. The next is pretty self-explanatory. It is the education proof. So if you have a degree or a diploma or any certificates, you really need to show proof of all of that. The next is the letter from the current employer. A lot of people get this confused with the employment reference letter. Now, this is sort of similar to the employment reference letter where it states, how long you've been with the company, your main title, the duties that you've held. But in addition to that, you're also providing proof of all pay stubs, proof that you've actually been paid by this company. So that's extremely important. This is to really figure out your financial profile for the application. The next, again, is pretty self-explanatory. You've got your resume or your CV, it's called. You will have to present that. And the next is a submission letter. Submission letter is something that your paid representative, that is, if you have hired an immigration consulting firm to act on your behalf, they will be writing this submission letter, and the strength of the submission letter is extremely important, and it's something that they will have to put together. You can also get upfront medical exams done through a panel physician, which is great. If this would really save a lot of time as well. And police certificate, it's a police clearance certificate. Depending on where you're located, it can take anything from a month to about 6 months to get the police clearance certificate. So if you are looking to apply for the ICT visa, it's a good idea that you start looking into these details as well. In my previous video, I talked about how long it takes for an application to put together. I obviously didn't talk about the police clearance certificate, but the police clearance certificate is the one that I think takes the maximum time, depending on which area in the world you're living in. And you need a police clearance certificate from any country that you've lived in for 6 months or more from the time you turned 18. So those are the different countries that you need the police clearance from. So hopefully it's just 1 or 2 countries, but if it's multiple, then it really just adds to that time. The next is employer declaration. It's also called the employer questionnaire and declaration form. This needs to be completed for any work permit application that does not need an LMIA, which is a labor market impact assessment. I have talked about this in my previous videos, where the ICT visa is LMIA exempt. And in this case, the employer has to complete the employer questionnaire and declaration. Now, the family information form is quite important. It is the IMM 5645 form. You will have to provide a lot of information about your family. Now, who are the people that you will be talking about in this form? It is your spouse or your common law partner, your parents, your children, your stepchildren, adopted children, your brothers, sisters, including step siblings and half siblings. So these are the people that you will be including in the family information form. The marriage certificate, again, is pretty easy to understand what that is. So if you are married, you will need to provide your marriage certificate, or if you are a common law partner, if you have a common law partner, then you need to provide proof of the fact that that person is your common law partner. And we can definitely talk about it if that is the case. And the next is the birth certificate. So it's extremely important to know information like the person's name, the place of birth, and the date of birth. If you have family members that are Canadian citizens or permanent residents, you need to provide proof of status of that, and it's proof of their Canadian citizenship or their immigration status document or a permanent resident card. And you need to make sure that you are, showing, the copies of both the sides of these documents, which is quite crucial. The use of rep form is for when you are using a paid representative to act on your behalf. So that's a form that's definitely very important. You need to provide details of your passport and finally the digital photo as well. I'm sorry, I actually forgot to tell you about the Schedule 1 document, which basically is a form with questions about your personal history. So you will be asked for a list of information such as any affiliations with organizations and any military or government service and questions like that. And last but not the least, I did have somebody on LinkedIn ask me, is CAC needed for ICT visa if they have an offer from an employer in Quebec? The answer to that question is no, you don't need a CAC for Quebec. Just because this is an LMIA exempt work permit, you do not need a CAC. So we have covered that as well. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you found that useful. Now, we have sort of covered all of the questions that we've been receiving related to the ICT visa. And through the 7 episodes, I think I've answered all of those questions. Now, if I don't have any more questions from any of you, then we may be moving forward to working on some other content like investor programs for the different provinces, which I have been talking about in the past few videos as well. So I will be working on those videos. So please like and subscribe to our channel so you get notified as soon as we have informative videos uploaded. And I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. Thank you and good luck.